It won't feel like a warning. It'll feel like a small compromise, like a harmless delay, like silence. You convince yourself is rest, but deep down, you know, it's surrender. That's how it begins. Not with a collapse, with permission. Permission to skip one habit, 1 hour, one decision that seemed too small to matter until it became your pattern. Discipline is not about looking sharp. It's about staying alive in a world that profits off your softness, your distraction, your delay. Most people won't hear this as an emergency, but the ones who are tired of almost, the ones who've felt their soul fading beneath the surface, they will. Because the truth is simple. Discipline won't just change your life, it will save it. Discipline isn't a punishment. It's not self-denial. It's not sacrifice. It's salvation. You don't build discipline to impress the world. You build it to survive yourself. Because left untrained, your mind is not your friend. It will seek comfort. It will rationalize weakness. It will seduce you into living the same day, the same year, the same decade, until regret is louder than your pulse. This is the truth they won't tell you. Discipline is what keeps your life from collapsing in slow motion. Not because you were incapable, but because you waited. Because you drifted. Because you let your feelings decide what kind of future you deserved. There is no neutral in life. You're either building your power or you're giving it away. Brick by brick, excuse by excuse. And by the time most people notice, they're surrounded by the ruins of what they could have built. But you don't see that at first, because average doesn't announce itself. It disguises itself as rest, as balance, as self-care, until your edge is gone, until you forget what it felt like to wake up on fire. Discipline doesn't just build success. It protects your fire from dying in the quiet. And that's why you need it. Discipline is the life vest you wear when the waves of emotion come. When you're exhausted. When you're lonely. When the voice in your head starts telling you that comfort is harmless and excellence can wait. That voice is not weakness. It's a warning. It's your default programming fighting to keep you small, safe, forgettable. Discipline is the override. The code you install. The shield you wear when the old you come knocking. Because the old you. He knows your pressure points. He knows your blind spots. He knows exactly what lie will get you to fold. And without discipline, you will listen. But with it, you don't flinch. You don't pause. You don't ask your feelings for permission. You execute, because execution is the language of belief. And every time you keep your word, every time you do what you said you would do, especially when it's hard, you remind your subconscious, I am not here to be ruled by emotion. I am here to lead it. That's why this is not about motivation. Motivation is a luxury. Discipline is survival. It's what keeps the mission alive when nothing else does. And if you don't build it now, if you keep waiting for the mood, for the fire, for the perfect schedule, you'll lose years. You'll master the art of almost. You'll become brilliant at excuses. You'll get so good at rationalizing mediocrity that it'll start to feel normal. And that's when you become dangerous to yourself. Because now you're not just undisciplined, you're blind to it. You've convinced yourself that being soft is being kind, that chasing comfort is healing, that skipping the work is self-love. No, self-love is doing what protects your potential even when it hurts. And discipline hurts. It stretches. It offends the ego. It breaks you open so the real version of you can step forward. But let me say this clearly. Discipline is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters with ruthless consistency. You don't need 12 habits. You don't need another planner. You need a promise. One, to yourself, and the spine to keep it when no one else is watching. Because the most powerful man in any room isn't the loudest. He's the most integrated. His thoughts, his actions, his words, they match. That's discipline. That's freedom. And when it's installed not as a trend, but as identity, you become unstoppable. Not because you're perfect, but because your standards no longer depend on your state. You move whether you're motivated or not. You execute whether you're tired or not. You choose alignment over emotion every single time. And that's when people start to feel it. They won't know what changed. They'll ask if it's your routine, your schedule, your coach, your secret, and you'll say nothing. Because the secret isn't sexy. It's discipline done daily without drama, without breaks, without applause. That's the truth, and that's why it will save your life. You don't become disciplined by accident. You become disciplined by decision. A hard one, a quiet one that no one celebrates but you carry every day. Because discipline doesn't ask for a show, it asks for proof. And here's the part most people never understand: discipline is not about perfection. It's about recovery speed. It's about how fast you get back up, how little you let your worst day affect your next day, how consistently you come back to the process even when the spark is gone. You want to change your identity. Don't talk louder. Don't buy new gear. Don't wait for your life to slow down. Track your follow-through. Every time you follow through, you send a signal to your brain. This is who we are now. And eventually, your brain believes you. See, your brain doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about what you repeat. If you repeat inconsistency, you become unreliable. If you repeat discipline, you become unstoppable. It's not about potential, it's about pattern. And the beauty of discipline is this: it doesn't require talent, it doesn't require genius. It only requires a willingness to show up for yourself before the world believes in you. That's power. Because once discipline becomes your rhythm, you become your own momentum. You no longer need motivation. Your life starts to run on principle. And principle is rare. In a world addicted to stimulation, discipline is rebellion. It says, I don't need noise. I don't need permission. I don't need a mood to honor my mission. That kind of man, he's dangerous. Not because he's perfect, but because he's consistent when it matters most. He doesn't waste time proving he's committed. He shows it in silence, in early mornings, in saying no when it would be easy to say yes, in choosing growth when comfort is screaming. That's what separates a disciplined man from a man with potential. And speaking of time, discipline gives you back your most precious asset: ownership of your hours. Because without discipline, your time belongs to your urges, to your distractions, to whoever grabs your attention first. But when you're disciplined, your day is no longer up for debate. Your mornings are locked. Your work is sacred. Your rituals become armor. You stop chasing time because you command it. And when a man owns his time, he becomes lethal. Not busy, effective, not rushed, rooted. Because discipline doesn't just help you do more. It helps you do the right things over and over again, until success is no longer luck. It's inevitable. But let's not lie to each other. Discipline hurts. Not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, because it will force you to confront the parts of you that are still addicted to escape. The part that hides in entertainment. The part that wants praise for intentions. The part that breaks promises in private and wonders why life feels out of control. Discipline exposes that. Not to shame you, to free you. It holds up a mirror and says, this is who you could be. This is what it will take. Are you still in? And if you are, you'll come face to face with the most powerful transformation of all: turning pain into pattern. Because here's the secret: every struggle can be weaponized. If you wrap discipline around it, anger can become fuel, heartbreak can become clarity, failure can become a sharpened edge, loss can become presence, confusion can become precision. But only if you move. Only if you build. Only if you keep showing up when nothing around you is giving you a reason to. That's how discipline saves your life. not by removing struggle, but by turning you into the kind of man who doesn't fold when it arrives. So if you're in the middle of a storm right now, if your mind feels heavy, if your vision feels far, if your soul feels like it's being pulled in every direction, don't escape. Anchor. Return to discipline. Return to the work. Return to the structure you promised yourself. Return to the standard that kept you breathing when everything else collapsed. Because discipline is not about becoming robotic. It's about becoming real. Real to your values. Real to your calling. Real to the version of you that doesn't quit just because life got loud. That man, he's rare, but he's possible. And the only thing standing between who you are and who he is the discipline to decide. Discipline isn't just about getting things done. It's about who you become when the doing becomes non-negotiable. See, once you stop debating with yourself, you free up a dangerous amount of energy. Mental energy, creative energy, spiritual energy, and what most people waste in hesitation, you now reinvest in execution. That's emotional power. That's the birth of immunity when your emotions stop deciding your direction and start bending to your identity. This is why discipline is more than habit. It's home. It's the place you return to when everything else feels unstable. It grounds you. It sharpens you. It whispers, "We don't fold here," even when everything else in your life is falling apart. Because let's be clear, discipline is not the absence of chaos. It's the ability to keep moving through it. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be overlooked. You'll be told to lighten up. But that's how you'll know you're getting it right. Because most people fear the man who is still when the world is shaking. And here's the paradox. They'll never understand the more grounded you become, the more magnetic you become. Not because you try harder, but because you try less. You're not performing. You're not explaining. You're not apologizing for high standards. You just are. And that level of consistency, it becomes spiritual. That's why people start respecting you before they even understand you. They feel the weight of someone who doesn't need attention to be effective. Someone who isn't desperate to prove himself because he already did it at 5 a.m. alone, without posting about it. Discipline does that. It makes your presence heavier, your words slower, your execution inevitable. Because when your identity is forged in self-respect, you no longer accept chaos as a lifestyle. You no longer chase stimulation to feel alive. You don't need loud wins, you're building quiet proof. And one day, they'll notice. Not because you told them, but because they won't be able to ignore what you've become. You'll speak less, but everything about you will communicate. This man has standards. This man doesn't flinch. This man doesn't move for anything less than what he's aligned with. And in a world that celebrates noise, your discipline will become your edge. Because while everyone else is chasing identity through expression, you're building yours through execution. You don't need to wear greatness, you're living it. And that's how legacy is born. Not in loud announcements, not in big breaks, but in small, sacred decisions repeated long enough to become undeniable. That workout you didn't skip. That meeting you showed up prepared for. That evening you stayed in to build instead of numb yourself. Those don't just add up, they compound. And what starts as self-discipline becomes self-trust. What becomes self-trust becomes momentum. And what becomes momentum turns you into a machine. Not emotionless, but an unbreakable. Because now your integrity is heavier than your impulses. And this is what they'll never teach you in school. The man who can command himself doesn't need to command others. He becomes the standard silently. He becomes the example effortlessly. He becomes the leader whether he signs up or not. Because when you are disciplined, people follow without being asked. Not because of what you say, but because of what they feel. That's how powerful consistency is. It becomes your reputation. Before you even introduce yourself, So ask yourself, are you building that kind of gravity? Or are you still outsourcing your power to how you feel when you wake up? Are you letting the world hand you your rhythm? Or are you creating it brick by brick, ritual by ritual? Because the truth is this: you're not tired of the work. You're tired of the negotiation. You're tired of starting over, of needing another spark, of living in a cycle that looks ambitious but feels hollow. And discipline, it ends the cycle. It puts your life on rails. It gives your pain a purpose, and your purpose a path. But you have to choose it. You have to stop romanticizing change and start making change inevitable. You do that not by thinking more, but by choosing once clearly, loudly, inwardly. From now on, I don't follow feelings. I follow the mission. And if the emotion doesn't match, it gets left behind. That's not cold. That's clarity. And clarity is the birthplace of power. There is a version of you the world has never met, not because he's hiding, but because you keep giving your energy to the version that hesitates. Every time you choose distraction over depth, delay over decision, comfort over calling, you're voting for the man you swore you'd leave behind. But discipline is how you silence that vote forever. Because when discipline becomes your identity, you don't have to argue with yourself. You don't have to explain your rituals. You don't need motivation or momentum or reminders. You just do what must be done. Not because you're trying to be great, but because you refuse to be anything else. This is where men are made. Not in the spotlight, in the structure, in the silence of repetition, in the darkness of consistency, in the stillness where your soul learns how to listen to standards louder than emotions. Discipline isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It speaks in posture, in calmness, in the ability to move through pressure without breaking eye contact with your future. That kind of man, he's not obsessed with approval. He's obsessed with alignment. He doesn't need the world to believe in him. He's already built too much proof to doubt himself. You want to know what freedom feels like. It's waking up and already knowing exactly who you are. No renegotiation. No journaling your way out of excuses. No sliding standards just because you're tired. You know what time you rise. You know what your morning means. You know what gets cut and what never will. And that level of discipline, it repels weakness. Not because you hate others, but because your energy is no longer up for auction. It's sacred, and sacred things don't entertain distraction. So start asking better questions. Not, what's the best morning routine? Ask, what's the one thing I'll never skip again no matter what? Not, how can I stay consistent? Ask, what part of my day becomes non-negotiable, even when my life is on fire? Not, how do I get motivated? Ask, what version of me suffers if I delay one more day? Because once you answer that honestly, you'll realize discipline isn't a burden. It's a form of respect for your time, for your future, for every version of you that fought to survive and get here just so you could finally rise. Let them call you extreme. Let them call you rigid. Let them say you're too focused. They don't understand the cost of compromise. They've never felt the silence of unused potential echoing in their bones. You have, and that's why you chose this path. You didn't choose it because it's easy. You chose it because you're done living beneath what you know is possible. And that version of you, the one who doesn't negotiate anymore, he's already inside you, waiting for one more excuse to die, for one more decision to hold, for one more quiet rep that no one will see, but that changes everything. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about never again letting your weakness make your decisions for you. It's not about being busy. It's about being intentional. It's not about achieving. It's about becoming. The kind of man who shows up when it's hard. The kind of man who leads himself. The kind of man who, without saying a word, tells the world, "I'm not hoping for greatness. I've already built the system for it." That's legacy, not what they remember, what they feel in your presence. Because the man who commands himself doesn't need to ask for anything. He becomes the example. There will come a day, quiet, ordinary, no warning, when your old self tries to return. He'll knock softly. He'll say, "Just one day off. Just skip this once, you've earned it." But you won't answer the door, because by then, you won't be him anymore. You'll have lived too many mornings with discipline. You'll have kept too many promises. You'll have walked too far into the man you were born to become to ever crawl backward again. That's what discipline gives you, not just results. Resurrection. It brings you back from the dead, from versions of you that wasted time, settled for less, believed the lie that consistency was optional. And you'll know you're not guessing anymore. You're not hoping this time will stick. You're not leaning on inspiration. You're walking in identity. The man who wakes up and moves anyway. The man who leads himself when no one else is watching. The man who has earned his own respect because he kept showing up when it would have been easier to disappear. That kind of self-respect, no one can give it to you. And once you've tasted it, you'll never settle again. Discipline is the gate. It's the threshold between who you were and who you swore you'd become. And most people, they stand at that gate for years, talking, waiting, dreaming. But you walked through, and now you know what they never will. That the real reward of discipline is not the goal. It's who you have to become in order to reach it. You become steady. You become clear. You become whole. You stop depending on motivation to move you, because now you are the movement. And from that place, life starts to change. Not all at once, not with fireworks, but slowly, consistently, permanently. The days blur together, but your direction never does. You go to sleep proud because you did what you said you would do, not for applause, not for proof, but because you don't lie to yourself anymore. That's power. That's peace. That's what discipline builds when you let it finish the work. So now the choice is yours. It always has been. Do you drift another year hoping your emotions align? Or do you anchor today in unshakable standards that don't need to be felt to be followed? Because this isn't about inspiration anymore. It's about decision. And decision isn't a mood. It's a sword. Draw it. Wield it. Use it to cut away the noise, the softness, the version of you that almost rose, and don't look back. Because you are now the kind of man who does what he said he would do no matter what. And when people ask how you changed, when they wonder what flipped the switch, what finally made it real this time, you won't need a speech. You'll say 3 words: I got disciplined. That's it. Not magic, not luck, not a secret program. Just discipline, chosen, lived, anchored, every single day. And that is the truth. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours now. Because the man on this side of the gate is not waiting anymore. He's not chasing. He's not dabbling. He's decided. And when you make that kind of decision, the world doesn't have a choice. It has to move around you. You don't rise because you learned something new. You rise because this time, you didn't walk away from it. Discipline doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It just waits silently, patiently, for the moment you're finally done being seduced by potential and start living like the man who already decided. There's no applause at first. No one's watching. But that's where it becomes real. You build it alone. You wear it alone. And one day, when everything around you shakes, you'll be the only one still standing. Not because you're fearless, but because you never again let fear vote on your future. That's the quiet gift of discipline. It doesn't just shape your days, it saves the parts of you that almost disappeared. And when they ask how you made it through, you won't need to explain. You'll just smile and say, I showed up, even when I didn't want to. That's not motivation. That's who you are now.